What if I told you the 2026 World Cup has more matches than ever before, is hosted by three different countries at once, and that finishing third place in your group might still be enough to survive? Every single one of those statements sounds fake. None of them are. For most of its history, the World Cup had 32 teams. In 2026, that number jumps to 48. That is not a small change. That is 1.5 World Cups stacked on top of each other. 16 extra nations get a seat at the table that never had one before. More countries, more upsets, more chaos. More teams means more matches. The old format had 64 games. The 2026 format has 104. That is 40 extra matches. In pure football terms, that is almost an entire extra tournament. The schedule is so packed that by the time the final is played, you will have watched or ignored more World Cup football than ever before in history. Here is where it gets weird. The 2026 World Cup is not hosted by one country. It is not even hosted by two. It is hosted by three countries simultaneously: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. One tournament, three nations. One border crossed twice. This has never happened in men's World Cup history. You could technically fly from a group stage match in Mexico City to a knockout match in New York and still be at the same tournament. And those three countries contain 16 host cities. 16. Compare that to the 8 cities used in Qatar 2022 or the 12 in Brazil 2014. 16 cities means the tournament is genuinely spread across a continent. A team in Group A might play in Los Angeles, then fly to Toronto, then head to Guadalajara. The travel alone is a subplot, but the split between those countries is not even close to equal. The United States hosts 11 cities. Mexico hosts 3. Canada hosts 2. The USA gets more than half the tournament by itself, which makes sense given the size, but it still sounds like the USA just quietly took over the World Cup from the inside. The old World Cup had 8 groups of 4 teams each. The 2026 World Cup has 12 groups of 4. 12. That is 4 extra groups, 4 extra opening ceremonies, 48 extra group stage storylines. By the time the group stage ends, you will have already seen more drama than an entire old format World Cup. Those 12 groups produce 72 group stage matches alone. 72? In the old format, the entire group stage was 48 matches. In 2026, the group stage by itself is bigger than the whole old tournament's first round. The group stage is no longer a warm-up. It is an event on its own. And this is the part nobody explains properly. In the new format, finishing third in your group does not automatically send you home. The 8 best third-place teams from across all 12 groups also advance to the knockout stage. So you can finish third, below 2 other teams, and still be alive in the tournament. Which sounds fake, but it is exactly how it works. Because 48 teams advancing through 12 groups produces a number that requires a round of 32 before the round of 16. A round of 32. That is a knockout round that did not exist in any previous Men's World Cup. 32 teams enter, 16 survive, and those 16 then play the round that used to be the first knockout round. The bracket just grew a whole extra layer. Which brings us to the finalists' journey. In the old 32-team format, a champion played 7 matches from start to trophy. In 2026, a finalist may need to play 8 matches to lift the cup. 8. That is an entire extra game added to the hardest run in world football. Win 8 matches across 3 countries in roughly 5 weeks. That is what it takes now. And the final itself. The 2026 World Cup final is scheduled for July 19, 2026, at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, which sits just outside New York City. The largest metropolitan area in the United States will host the most watched sporting event on Earth. Meanwhile, the opening match is set for Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, a stadium that has hosted World Cup finals before in 1970 and 1986. The 2026 World Cup starts where history lives and ends where the whole world is watching. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 countries, 16 cities, a round of 32 that never existed before, and 8 matches to win it all. The 2026 World Cup does not just get bigger, it gets stranger. and it starts very, very soon.